Alrighty, well, Laura has started recording, so we're going to get started. Happy Saturday, Greenville Democrats. It's great to join you. We're still in the virtual mode, which is not as pleasant as I would like it to be, but it's still a way that we can fellowship and get together. So excited to see so many familiar faces, but new faces joining as well. And I see so many of our great candidates, and we're going to give you a time to speak later. We are so proud of the work that we're doing here at the GCDP. We have such a great team, and I am so excited that we are offering unique opportunities to get engaged, working with our constituents, but also reaching out and having the conversations and taking action beyond those conversations. We have a great group of speakers today, some are who are my dear, dear friends and who are changing the landscape on the ground. But I want to start today by saying two important things. Thank you to our amazing core leadership team. Some of you are on, some of you are not on, but I'm going to do a quick roll call. Ruth, Sharon, Jonathan, Regina, Laura, Kate, Lee, Paul, Ron, Anita, Eric, Katie, Jean Marie, Roxanne, who is doing yeoman's work, helping Laura with the Bray. There's so many people that are stepping. I love that Hulk out, Roxanne. So many people that are stepping up in so many unique ways, and we're all volunteers. And I know it's a task at some times, but I have to say thank you because each of you are running your race and helping me be the best version of myself, and helping this party move along in so many critical ways. So thank you. I also want to say how immensely proud I am to be a Democrat. It is such a great time to be a Democrat. Such a great time to be a Democrat. Hopefully some of you all witnessed the amazing convention that we had this past week. It was truly spectacular. It really was something. Again, the pride every day of being a part of this party, being a representative of this party, but being a part of this country. That's what it's about. It's about country first, and our party is leading and going to lead this country in the right direction. Congratulations to our new nominee, former Vice President Joe Biden, and his running mate, Kamala Harris. And just as a point of reference, it's pronounced Kamala, like the comma with a la. It really irks me how many people still butcher her name. She's about to be our next vice president, y'all. Don't get it twisted. Kamala. Just point of privilege just for me on that one. What we saw this past week was unity. How amazing to see Democrats united. Oftentimes, my sister and I joke about, we wanted to sneak into Republican meetings to see how they fall in line, because it seems that they snap their fingers and everyone gets in line and gets behind it. But that's the beauty of our big tent. We have varying opinions. We have multiple perspectives, and within the Democratic Party, we have different tents. And our job, and now it's the former vice president's job, is to unite us all. And each of us has a part in that. We need to play our part. We as a country truly didn't believe we were stronger together in 2016. But now we have the chance to choose differently. We can build back better. What a great slogan. It's something our country truly, truly needs. Throughout the convention, there were so many common themes that I know you heard, and I'm hoping voters across the country heard. Go vote and make your voice heard. I think everyone was making that statement loud and clear, from our wonderful former First Lady Michelle Obama, to Senator Sanders, to former Governor John Kasich, a Republican, to former Representative Gabby Giffords, who continues to show a grit that I wish more of the world had. That was just moving, and it brought me to tears. That whole first 10 minutes, I was like, y'all can't start it like this. It was just tears with the movement on gun violence, with people stepping up and making their voices heard, turning tragedy, as we saw with Sharon Risher, into action. That's what this country is about. Each of them motivated a different segment, as we talked about, within our tent, and people we want to bring to our tent. There is nothing wrong with bringing in Republicans. If they're seeing the light, come on over. That's what we want. We want to build this tent, and we want to build bigger. We need this to get rid of the toxicity that is 45. When we unite, we get out the man that is in the White House currently. The third night was my absolute favorite, as we saw my idol and my former boss, the next vice president, take the stage and really take it to Trump, showcasing her biography, showcasing how she as a woman has been leading for a long time. And it's a long time coming. It's a long time coming. I also love the powerful statement that we saw the female leaders wearing their suffragette white, and especially Hillary Clinton. That was heartbreaking. I went through the 5 stages of grief seeing the former secretary speak. So many in the media mostly, but so many Democrats said she didn't have a message. And my response to that is listen to her convention speech in 2016. And for all of us that still think she don't have a message, listen to what every speaker said this past convention. He isn't ready for the job. He's not going to grow into the job. He's baited by a tweet. She warned us, and we chose not to listen as a country, but we have another chance. Whether she inspired you or not, that's a separate issue. She inspires me, and she still is going to continue to inspire me. But what we can do is continue to listen this time. Go vote, and go vote early. Sign up to be a poll worker or be a poll watcher. That was her message. The same thing she said on Morning Joe the next day. And tell your friends and family, make sure they're getting out and vote. Make sure you're setting a plan to go vote. We also heard the urgency from our former president, Obama. It was an uplifting message, but it was unflinching in his dire need. He was very forceful. And as we know, so many times presidents take the tact of not commenting on their former boss. And I applaud President Obama for the restraint that he's had for this idiot, excuse my bad language, that's in the White House right now. And let's just speak truth. Joe Biden killed it. That was the best speech I've seen him give in years. He was on it, on it, on it, on it. And I couldn't have been more proud. It warmed my heart to hear him talk about how character is on the ballot. Character most certainly is on the ballot. But as my former boss used to say, there's so many other things like justice, healthcare, reproductive choice, environmental justice. They're all on the ballot. Each of us has to choose where we're going to be at in this fight for the soul of our country. Many of us thought that Marianne Williamson should not have been on that stage. But in Joe's message, a lot of her speaking, her talking points, her message came out. Joe talked about his character, empathy, compassion, taking the country in a different step, talking about light and dark. That was a beautiful piece of the puzzle that often gets thrown out of politics, leading with empathy. It's what drew me to Tina Belgi. It's what continues to inspire me about Tina Belgi. People that can lead with their heart. I hope at the end of these 2 years, you all can say that about me. For all of you that know me, that I'm leading with my heart. It's hard to do that in this business, but Joe showed us a different way. Joe showed us the best of what we can be. His resilience, his perseverance, the power of personal connection, that's what takes us to the next level. Those calls that he made to folks were just so inspiring, realizing it's about our humanity. It's about people. This is who I want as my president, and I know each of you on this call want as your president. In this fight, we're going to have to choose. What side are we going to be on? Are we choosing light or are we choosing darkness? What will you say to yourself when you look back at this time? Let's stand together and create a more just society, knowing each step we take is toward that vision of a more perfect union. This only comes through action. So roll up your sleeves, get ready to work. So let's get moving and build back better. In solidarity with you all, thank you. I'd like to get to the program part, and this first speaker just warms my heart. I jumped on the call, just seeing her face, it just lights me up. I love it, I love it, I love it. I have the privilege of introducing Melissa Watson Ward. Melissa Watson Ward is the Emerge South Carolina Executive Director, and this program is near and dear to my heart. And so many of us, our Emerge chair, Ms. Susan Reardon, has also graced us with her presence, and she's on this call, another dynamic and fabulous woman. So thank you, Susan, for the work you do. The mission of Emerge is to increase the number of Democratic women leaders from a diverse background in public office through recruitment, training, and providing the most amazing, powerful network. It is truly amazing. Emerge South Carolina is changing the face of politics by working and building the tentacles in every county across our great state. They're the only, and I say this with pride, the only in-depth 6-month, 70-hour training program bringing the best of the best from across the country to deliver the message for our next leaders. Full disclosure, I have the honor and privilege of serving on the board. I just recently started a couple months ago. It's been a privilege and such a great learning experience. I get to see up close how dynamic Melissa is. She's hardworking, tenderhearted, and visionary. The connection she makes with each member of the cohort is beautiful to watch. She takes the time, but more importantly, Melissa shows up, which is the most important thing for her team. After researching the history of Emerge and talking to some of its amazing co-founders, who we also have on this call, Samantha Wallace, I'm so thankful for the hiring committee to choose Melissa. Two of the women that were on that committee are two of the most business savvy and politically astute women that I know, and they saw something in Melissa. And I am so glad, because Melissa is changing the landscape of South Carolina politics. It gives me great pleasure and pride to introduce my friend and a true change maker, Melissa Watson Ward.
Thank you, Eli. Thank you for that lovely and beautiful intro. I really appreciate it. So yes, my name is Melissa Watson Ward. I'm the Executive Director of Emerge South Carolina. For those of you who don't know as much about Emerge, Eli gave some tidbits of information, but I'll give you a little bit about our history. So we are part of a 15-year organization. Emerge was actually founded in California. And then our parent organization, the National Emerge America Network, was founded in 2005. And from there, Emerge spread across the United States into different states. However, we did not come into the South until 2016. We know what happened in 2016, and a lot of women were motivated to do something in reply or in response to the Trump administration. And for many women, that meant running for office or starting an organization to help other women run for office. And so with the gracious leadership of our current president, Ashanti Golar, and with the support and leadership and visionary of some of our leaders like Susan Ritter and Samantha Wallace, Emerge South Carolina was brought to South Carolina and to other southern states. And we did a big southern expansion, and Emerge South Carolina was founded in 2017. So although we are newer in South Carolina, we are part of an organization that has a long reputation of training and electing Democratic women across the nation. We are currently in 27 states. We have affiliates, but we have alum of our program in 45 states and territories. We have women across the nation that are serving at all levels of government. Nationwide, we have close to 800 women who are Emerge alum who are serving in office, including 5 women in Congress and a number of women who are serving on the statewide level and legislative level. Here in South Carolina, we have 87 alum across the state of South Carolina with 20 candidates currently running for office. So I think for an organization that hasn't quite hit its 3 years yet, we've been doing a pretty good job as far as training women and getting our candidates to run, including Kim Nelson, who's running for Congress, and Samantha Wallace, who's running for county council there in Greenville. So we're excited about our women who are running. We have 2 women who are running for Congress, a number of women who are running for state house seats, either in the House or the Senate. And then we have women who are running on the local level in the county or school board. So as I said, we have 20 women on the ballot this year. We're proud of those women who are running to help change the face of politics at both the local level and the national level. So the way that our program works is we recruit women who are at different stages of politics. Some of the women who come into the program are current candidates. Others may not decide to run for a number of years. And we train them on how to be the best candidate they can be. So they go through a 70-hour intensive program. We meet 6 months, 1 week in a month, and they receive a full weekend or full day worth of training on different topics. And so they may be trained on things like messaging and media, on fundraising, field, and even diversity in politics. Because our goal is also to make sure that we are not just changing the face of politics by electing more women, but also that we're changing the face of politics by electing more women from diverse backgrounds. We want to make sure that the women that we're electing truly represent the communities that they're going to serve. And we've seen success across the nation. So first-time candidates usually have about a 10% win rate. Emerge women have approximately a 46% win rate. Which I think is phenomenal. And I think is a testament to the difference that a candidate training program can make in a candidate being able to run her campaign even better. And we've seen women who are the first in many communities, whether it's the first Somali woman elected, the first Latin American woman elected, the first transgender woman elected, Deb Haaland, one of the first Native American women elected to Congress. We've seen so many firsts because we do a good job of making sure that we are recruiting women from diverse backgrounds. And so, speaking of recruitment, our recruitment process is currently open. And so we are recruiting for the class of 2021. And we ask all of our women to fill out an application. They will then move to an interview process where we will interview all of our potential applicants. Our applications close September 1st. And then the month of September, we'll do interviews. And then we will extend an invitation to program members or potential program members to join our 2021 program, which starts in January. We're so excited about it. The applications that are coming in are wonderful community-minded women. And so we're very excited about that. And that's essentially what we're looking for. Women who are community-minded. They don't necessarily have to be politically savvy or have deep political roots. As long as they are women who have served their community in some capacity, they are involved in their community, and they have a desire to serve in political office or help in races for other women. Because some of our alum, while we have 20 who are running for office, we have so many more who are actually helping women who are running for office, which is the beautiful thing about the Emerge program and the Emerge network, is that of those 87 women, they are supporting each other's campaigns by volunteering, and in some cases, working on each other's campaigns. So it's exciting. We have a great group of alum. We have a great group of alum who are running. Also, we have in the Greenville area, Amanda McDougall-Scott, who's running for county council, so I don't want to forget her name. We have, again, a great group of women who are running for office this year, and we're really excited about it. Some ways that you can support Emerge is you can recommend a woman to apply to the Emerge program. And again, we're just looking for women who are community-minded, who want to serve their community in a way and are interested in politics. Please encourage that woman that you know to apply to the Emerge program. You can also donate to Emerge. We are an organization that our funding comes strictly from donations and program fees, and we offset the cost of our tuition for our program with donations. And speaking of donations, we have a scholarship program named after the wonderful Congresswoman Liz Patterson, that you can support that scholarship program, which will again help offset the cost of participating in the program for our women, because our goal is to make sure that our program is accessible to all women and that financial limitations aren't a barrier to her participating. You can find more information about Emerge, our alum, our current candidates, and how to support us at emergesc.org.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And in the spirit of Liz Patterson, let's send Kim to take that seat in the honor of Liz Patterson. We haven't sent a woman to Congress since then. Melissa, you continue to inspire us, and we will continue to support from Greenville, because we know what you're doing is changing Greenville in ways you don't even know yet, but Greenville will be better for. So thank you. Thank you. I get the pleasure of introducing my first vice chair and my right hand in this operation, someone who hasn't deserted me yet. So thank you, Ruth. But just someone who is one of the hardest working Democrats we have, always organizing in everything that she does. And she is going to introduce our fabulous candidate for Congress. So thank you, Ruth, and I will give you the floor.
Thank you, Eli. And I want to introduce Kim Nelson, who I consider a friend also. Kim is a mom of 2 young girls, and she is also a public health professional. Kim grew up in Greenville and knows firsthand the struggles of so many working families across the upstate. She's ready to get to work and fight for healthcare access, environmental regulation, and economic justice for the people of South Carolina. I'm so proud to introduce Kim, and we all need to get to work and make sure that Kim is our next congressional congresswoman for District 4. Thank you. And Kim?
Well, thank you so much to both you and Eli and Melissa and everyone who has supported Emerge, because I would not be in this position right now if I hadn't gotten an email from Melissa saying, hey, I noticed you started an Emerge application, but you didn't finish it. Finish. So I missed the deadline because I was in graduate school at the time, and things just got busy. I think it was finals week actually. And no, she wrote me an email and said, like, I like what I see so far, keep going. And here I am now. So I am obviously running for Congress. Most of you know me because I have been doing this for over a year now. And that is hard to believe, but here we are. And I am just blown away and humbled every single day at the amount of support that I have received from all of you here in my community, all of people statewide and across the country who are believing in this race, who are believing in the value of adding a public health professional to Congress. Because if I get there, out of 535 members of Congress between the House and the Senate, I would be the 3rd public health professional. And we're in a pandemic. So we are seeing the effects of not having that diversity in life experience in our lawmaking bodies, and it shows. And when I say I am humbled, it's because I'm very proud, actually. It's both humbling and proud because so many of you have contributed to my campaign, and my campaign has been spurred by everyday people who believe in change, who believe in hope, who need those things to ensure that their family has health care, that their kids don't see the end of the world as we know it because of climate change. So I have been spurred by small dollar donations. I think we did the math, and it's actually 70% of my campaign has been funded by donations under $200, most of which have come from the state of South Carolina. So don't let anyone ever tell you that people here aren't ready for change. Don't let anyone tell you that people here are monolithic, because we are not. And it's allowing us to do things that have never been done before in this seat, like outraising a Republican incumbent. That's never happened before, but we did it heading into our pre-primary filing. And I remember the day sitting in Aiken, South Carolina in my Emerge class when Melissa was like, how you gonna do it, kid? And, you know, the truth is I didn't know. And even now, the reality is that with William Timmons, he can self-fund his campaign. He's actually come on my Twitter to say that. So I might not be able to outraise him, and I will concede that point, but I can outwork him. And so my plea to all of you today is to please, please, please hook in with our campaign so that we can call through numbers and get people motivated to vote, so that they hear about me, so that they know how to vote. Also, we are doing contactless canvassing. So it's essentially a literature drop where basically you just pop a little flyer in somebody's door. It's, you know, gives them most of the information that they need. You can write a little note on it with a Sharpie if you want. But we are trying to connect with voters while still maintaining public safety, because that is obviously the most important thing to me as a public health professional. So if you have a little time to call, if you have a little time to do a lit drop, that would really, really, really help us out. And I appreciate everyone who has stepped up so far. We are not yet at the point of text banking because we need to call through all those bad numbers in the voter file first. And so once we do that, then we can do text banking more efficiently. So help wherever and whenever you can. I am very grateful to all that's been done so far. And I won't take up too much of your time today, but I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what will come of this election, but I do know that we have far exceeded expectations, and it's thanks to everyday people like you. So yeah, my campaign manager, I see her in the comments. She's putting in, Eli has added my website. There's our Act Blue link there too. And if you go on the website, there's a place to volunteer. So please sign up, and yeah, let's flip the 4th. We can do this.
Thank you, Kim, and huge shout out to her amazing team, Clara, Sandrin, her campaign manager, Will Donnellan wears multiple hats as a fundraising director, and y'all, they hired one of Greenville's best organizers, Tabitha Bain Petrie, just adding to the tremendous staff, so huge shout out. And Kim, I wanna ask you one question I'd love for you to share. With your healthcare background, what are some immediate things you would do to make sure we don't have a response to a pandemic like this ever again? Because I think that's one thing you can bring to the table that's so unique with your education and also your personal experience.
No, thank you. Thank you for giving me the ability to talk about that, because there are so many things that went wrong. First and foremost, public health has been gutted for decades. It's been about 40 years of consistently underfunding public health systems, from the CDC all the way down to local health departments. And that's because when public health works really well, we're in the background. You don't see us. And so it's really easy to prioritize F-35s and not vaccine programs or disease surveillance. And so we're living with the effects of those budget cuts. We also need, it's so important that we elect the right people who are going to build better relationships with our international allies, because we need those relationships so that we can identify emerging diseases. There are hotspots in the world where, because humans and animals are just right on top of each other, that we know are more likely to show new diseases. That's where they're likely to pop up. And we need good relationships with those countries so that there's that trust, so that we can share that information. Secondly, I think we need to do a better job messaging. Republicans have really, they've presented this false choice, that it's a choice between either the economy or public health. And that's simply not true, because what's driving economic downturn isn't lockdown, it's the virus. You have to trace it all the way back to the virus. And if we could get control over that with things like earlier identification of coronavirus, more robust public health protocols like a centralized chain of command. So basically the idea that the federal government responds to pandemics, not state governments. It's Donald Trump called himself a wartime president. The federal government goes to war. We don't kick that down to the states. And it is the same kind of principle when you're dealing with a pandemic. We need leaders who aren't afraid to do the hard things and to say, we need a lockdown, here is why, here is how long, and admit that there are things we don't know, and message that in a confident way. As a public health professional, seeing the response be politicized in the way that it has been, everything from lockdowns to masks, it's been really disheartening, and it's, I think, prevented us from having that collective action and response, because you can't beat a pandemic with American individualism. We need collectivism. We need to have this idea that we are responsible to our communities. And that's the biggest thing I would change, I think, is messaging that, yes, we have rights, but we also have responsibilities. And it starts with leadership at the top.
Thank you for that, Kim. We are so proud of you. I hope you know that. It doesn't matter the result. We know that you're running an amazing race, putting your heart out there, and we can flip the 4th because you're working it and your team is working it, and all it takes is action. So thank you for your leadership and for stepping up. We really appreciate it, Kim. I have the pleasure of introducing our amazing fundraising coordinator, Regina Waldrop. Regina has stepped up to shepherd our committee. And one of the things that I really respect about Regina is she had an icon in the position before her, and she has just bulldozed forward and done such amazing work. For all of you that know Corey Urbina and Ricardo Urbina, they've been involved in a long time. And as Corey chose to step back, for good reason too, they wanted to spend some more time together. Regina has stepped up in just so many beautiful ways to really bring a robust 360 perspective to fundraising. She served on the committee for many years, so she's not a stranger. Regina brings a diverse background of leadership, project management, and project development, has a great conversational voice. So love when she's going to ask for money for all of us. So y'all be ready, because she's going to ask some of you for money. And one of the things that she has done has just been a tremendous resource to not only our party, but to me. So Regina, I appreciate all the great things you're doing, and I want to kick it over to you to explain some of the great work that you and your team are doing.
Myself here. I think I'm unmuted now. Hey, everybody. So good to see everybody's faces, and I wish we were together. I miss our meetings over at Circle of Friends. It was always inspirational to me to show up there and see folks for breakfast and just get a cup of coffee together. And so I miss that. But this is an alternative, and it is good to see your faces. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I just want to say that the fundraising committee is committed to raising the dollars that sustain us, up our game, and grow our network. When I joined the fundraising committee a few years ago, back in 2017, we organized as a committee for the first time for the party. My thought was that we were just going to be focused on raising money. And I had a very transactional perspective. My focus was making it transactional, running a phone bank, getting folks on the phone and talking to them and just asking them for money. But over time, my view has changed a little bit. As I got to know folks in the party, candidates and elected officials who have been longtime members of our community, Chandra Dillard, Enos Fant, Xanthine Norris, Lillian Brock Fleming, Leola Robinson Simpson, Carl Allen. I mean, getting to know those folks, and then longtime supporters in our community, Frank Holloman and Funderburk. These are folks that have given their time and their money. Carlisle Steele, Eric Graben, and Kate Franch, our prior chair. I have to say, she's been such an inspiration to me. Kate would go out of her way and do anything for anybody. I asked her on our way to the convention last year in Columbia, if she wanted to meet up afterwards, and she said no. I offered to take this person down. She had no way to get there. She has to be back tonight. So she was driving people to Columbia and back in the same day. I mean, the dedication among the people that we are here with today and that I've gotten to know over the past year is just amazing. So raising money for the party, to me, is so much more than just bringing in dollars to pay the rent. We are the sustaining force of the Democratic Party here in Greenville County. We are Greenville County. We're the third largest county in the state. We have prominence, but we also have such an amazing community, and bringing those folks into this network of Democrats is what inspires me and makes it so easy to come out to you and ask you to support the party. So when I took the role that Corey had over the past several years as the coordinator for the committee, I did it with a little concern because I work full time. I have a really busy schedule, and we were in a pandemic, and we can't coordinate another tastings in the town. Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And honestly, I think the focus went back to things that Corey and I and Kate and others on the fundraising committee were doing previously, which was growing our network. Let's just make this about growing our network of Democrats, bringing people together, and the money will come. And I got a call from Ricardo Urbina after we had a little going away party for Corey to thank her for all of her dedication to our committee. And Ricardo said, you know, Regina, we really need to educate our community. And you know, there's a lot of things that topically we're talking about, but we need to really bring in folks that can do something about it. And the way he thought to do that was to get people, you know, educated and agitated so that with their dollars, they would bring people to the polls. So we started talking about speaking engagements, and he offered himself up. And just to let you know a little bit about Ricardo, he's a retired U.S. District Court judge from the District of Columbia. He was a professor at Washington University, George Washington University, and also Howard University in DC. And he continues to work in his retirement as an arbitrator and mitigator for an international law firm. So he is still active and just an amazing, passionate person. His son, by the way, published a book called Outlaw Ocean, so I highly recommend that. It was on the New York Times bestseller list last fall, and Ian Urbina is a Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist and fighting the good fight for crime on the high seas. He is currently liaison to the United Nations, so look for that. But anyway, the Urbinas are a dynamic force, but they're an example of the kinds of people we have in our community. So we got to talking about this event, having a speaking engagement, and we decided we would bring others from the community in. We're having a panel discussion. So on October 1st, if you'd mark your calendars, we will be hosting the first in a series of quarterly educational forums called the Equal Justice Forum. And Ricardo will moderate a panel. On our panel, we have the esteemed Frank Holloman, who is a senior attorney with the Southern Environmental Law Center and was also the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Education under Bill Clinton and working alongside of our Governor Dick Riley, who was the Secretary of Education at the time. Frank is a stalwart member of our community and supporter of our party, and he will be on the panel. We are so fortunate to also have a commitment from Teresa Nesbitt Cosby, who is a professor at Furman University who teaches constitutional law and with a focus on racial justice, and has a unique knowledge of how systemic racism has been eating away at the three pillars of our government for many years now, but is under attack right now. And we also have on the panel Chandra Young Scott, who is the Director of Voter Protection for the South Carolina Democratic Party, but her prior role, she just joined the South Carolina Democratic Party, but her prior role was ex-ACLU Director for South Carolina. And she will be speaking about voter suppression and just brings an amazing background in immigration policy. She speaks Spanish fluently. She studied in Puerto Rico and Mexico, and she's just an amazing, an inspirational individual and attorney. And so we will be, we have this stellar panel. We'll be speaking at 7 o'clock for an hour and a half. The event will be free. And we are, this event and other events like Strength and Unity, which will take place just after that, will highlight the members of our community that have unique knowledge. They'll be sharing their insights as to what's going on behind the scenes in DC today, but they'll also be sharing what we can do about it. We are at the crossroads of the breaks, a degrading democracy, and but there are things that we can do about it. So the message will be informative, direct, but also hopeful. So that's one thing that the fundraising committee has been doing. We are asking for donations because of things like this that the party is doing to bring people into the party, get them to volunteer, and get people to the polls. And there are investments that we are making as a party to make those things easier and enabling them to occur by both supporting our candidates. We have 20 candidates running for office right now, and the party is home to those candidates. So we do what we can to support those candidates. We print flyers and door hangers, and we make phone calls, and we invest in technology, and we collaborate together, and we pay rent, and we have all of these things that we're trying to do to up our game. So we need your support. Just two last things I want to share. Members of our fundraising committee have done some stellar work. We've got the 2020 campaign that has been out there. We're asking for folks to become recurring donors. Just give a little bit. I give $10 a month in addition to the money that I provide, donate to the party to support major events like Tastings on the Town and other things that we're doing. My regular giving is $10 a month, and we're asking folks to just give as little as they can or as much as they can on a regular basis, because those sustaining dollars really make a difference. It enables us to plan ahead by having a base and a foundation of giving. And then the other thing that we're doing is a trivia night, because, and we're asking people just to come and play and, share their information with us so that we can grow our network of younger people and just individuals that are, supporting our cause. So we're kind of giving everybody an opportunity to stay involved with the party and support the party in various ways. And that's really all I have, Eli. I think I spilled my heart, and I hope that you all share some of that with me. I know that you do, and I'm just so proud to be part of this community. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the fundraising committee. I'll hand it back
Thank you,
over to
Regina. Thank you so much, Regina. And we have such a talented committee. And as our committees build out, please, if you would love to, step up, join our committee. We have a fundraising committee, precinct development, communications, voter protection. There's so many ways to get plugged in because we are all volunteers, and many hands make the workload light. So thank you, Regina. We're very excited to see the 2020 campaign. It was a goal of our teams, and we're really, thanks to Linda, director. I want to give a nice shout out to Linda, who really spearheaded that with our communications coordinator, Laura. We are now moving to our next speaker, who I am so excited to hear from, because every time I hear her, I learn. She is just brilliant. So Susan McLarty is our featured speaker for this month's breakfast. And Susan is the first coordinator of the Greenville Homeless Alliance and has held this position since May of 2018. She has a huge and impressive background, but prior to serving as the first coordinator of the GHA, she was on the 2016 Affordable Housing Steering Committee for the City of Greenville. She served as the United Ministries Executive Board Chair of the Congressional Relations and the Greenville Area Interfaith Hospitality Network, or the GAIN Board. He's a proud graduate of the DLI, the Diversity Leaders Initiative at the Riley Institute at Furman University, which was founded by our great former governor, Dick Riley, and she serves as an elder in the Presbyterian Church. Susan has been a visionary in our community, provides so much great context and information to not only our candidates, but the community, the people who need it the most. She serves on the Student Improvement Council at Wade Hampton High School and as the vice chair of the Greenville Housing Authority Board. Susan is married to George, and they have a daughter. She's a graduate of NC State University, and she has a long background and has served as an employee of Milliken and Company and at the Westminster Presbyterian Church. GHA, if you are not familiar with them, the Greenville Homeless Alliance, is out there doing such impressive work. And we are so proud that Susan chose to not only join us today, but to share her wisdom with us. So it is my great pleasure. And if y'all don't know her, reach out and find her, because she is a wealth of knowledge. Welcome Susan McLarty to our Greenville Breakfast. Thank you, Susan.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Eli. I have to say, when we were setting this up, my daughter could hear Eli talking to me in the background. And I don't know if I told you this, she was like, he is the nicest person I've ever heard on the other end of the phone. So it's great to be with you all. And also thank you to Laura for doing a test run yesterday. And we've got some polls we're going to try and see if that works to test your knowledge. Also want to thank our elected representatives who I've scanned and I believe are on the call here with us. I see Leola, and I know Chandra, and also our candidates, Kim, Samantha, and Hal. I saw that you're on here. I'm in your voting districts. So it's great to be with you all. Yeah, thumbs up. All right, I'm going to kick it off first with a poll that I hope will grab your attention. And I'm going to run through some slides, and then I'm going to leave time for questions. So Laura, we'll see first if the poll, how that's, okay. So I'm going to launch this poll, and I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to answer that. The question is, what percentage of children and their families qualified for homelessness services from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, our primary government agency through which funding for homelessness flows?
Hey, do you guys see the poll?
We have like 77% who've 80. So let me,
I don't see it.
I think that's majority. I'm not sure why you're not seeing, but I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. It looks
Okay.
like 82% have voted. So sadly, it's actually lower. Majority said 20%, and it's actually 10%. So let me share the results. All right. So I'm going to just bring up my slides and share with you all. It is about 10%, and that is related to definitions of homelessness and how that aligns with our need in the community for housing. And so it's not, it's really an educational point that I hope we can learn a little bit more about today. So let me share my screen with you all. All right, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I did just want to try to connect a few dots, and the Homeless Alliance is pretty new. The last time I spoke to this group, I had not formally started in this position. So what happened was a realization in this community that in 2014, we had a crisis that occurred under the Pete Hollis Bridge, and service providers and local government at that time said, if we don't do something different, we're going to see a larger increase in this type of literally on the street homeless, and also an increase in violence. And so because of that coming together in collaboration, there was a report that came out in 2015 that's on our website. And it was a kind of our first stake in the ground of like, what's going on here? What are the challenges around housing, homelessness, mental health, transportation, men and women returning from being incarcerated. So that's still a really great educational piece. It led to several priorities, one of which was forming the Alliance and hiring my position. So that happened in 2018. And just at the end of last year, we were able to bring all the partners together that have been working on this since that time and put out a new report. So I'm going to share some of that with you today. And then in July, we launched our strategic plan, which is exciting because it's our first strategic plan that we've had to look at this in Greenville County. So I heard, before I was introduced as a speaker, we need people who are doers, and we need a lot of action in this community. And so the purpose of this slide is just to tell you that the Homeless Alliance is formed under this national best practice called collective impact. There's a lot happening on this slide, but what we want you to sort of take away is that what we are talking about today from every aspect of justice helps us get to the root causes of homelessness. And so we need your help. We need to support all the candidates, as we've already talked about, and we need really great folks and minds coming around this complex issue. So there's a role for everyone. Along the bottom, you'll just see the majority of the logos represented are the organizations and or local government entities that help found our alliance. And the purpose is to try to come at it with a cross-sector view and not just one way of thinking about the problem. The newest entity to kind of join our steering committee is the school district. And so we've got some really important information to share from them today. This is just, again, to try, this is such a big topic. I was like, Laura, I don't know, like 15 minutes is tough. But when we're thinking about housing, homelessness, and big bucket things like that, wanted to just educate everyone on here today that we are very fortunate that the headquarters for all the funds that we receive to address homelessness, which is a piece of housing, are right here in Greenville, and they're over near the United Way. It's United Housing Connections. But as you'll see, our state is divided into 4 what they call continuum of care areas, and that means that that not only is Greenville County getting those funds, but 12 other counties are getting the funds to address homelessness. And then on the right, you'll see this is a slide that you could go on to the Chamber's website and look at it in more detail. This is actually just showing rental changes from 2013 to 2018. And kind of what occurred during that time are 2 really important studies that are on our website. You can also get to them from the Greenville Housing Fund, who I've referenced here, and also GCRA. Those are now like the 2 arms. If you'll think about what are the 2 arms that are helping us garner the resources and the ability to tackle this really challenging issue of housing that is affordable. But as you can see, like that darkest green on your screen, that is representing the largest changes in rent during that period of time. So it's throughout the county. And as you get to, there's really not any one area that hasn't been affected during that time. And so those numbers I put on the right is just to help you think about in like rounded numbers, like what is it that we're learning then? Well, to live in the city of Greenville, you need to have an income about $60,000 annually. And that's growing, but that's sort of where the Greenville Housing Fund says the market will begin to pick up from there. And then in the county, you need an income of $30,000 to have a choice of housing. And as we all know, with our county being so big, then transportation becomes a really big challenge. But very excited that like Tina Belgi, who I know that many of you know is now working for the Greenville Housing Fund, and John Castile is with GCRA running that. So I do think we're at a point where we've got excellent minds and people working on this. We're very excited to align and support their efforts. All right, really quick, I just wanted you to, again, because of funding, when we think about how can we address homelessness, and we know that housing, that's the best solution to homelessness, this is what we learned and said in our report, is that over 3,600 individuals in the most recent year were experiencing some type of housing instability and or homelessness, as the Greenville Homeless Alliance defines it. We think it's really important that over here in emergency shelter, majority of the people are in their prime working years. And many people are working and have been during this pandemic in jobs that are deemed essential, but they are not earning enough to move into permanent stable housing. On the right, this is who we counted as living on our streets in a one-night count. So we know that number is larger, but that's our best data point. And I saw that Cindy is on here, and so there's a really amazing group of seniors that are working with United Housing to build a very specific type of housing for our unsheltered. And it's a proven solution that I'm going to share a little bit of data around to help us think about how can we better advocate for that type of housing, and how do we use our public resources to make sure we're building it. And then our bottom numbers are school-age children. And so that was at the end of the 2019 school year. And unfortunately, that number is continuing to grow. And that's the children, that's the 10% of those are eligible under the HUD definition to get resources for themselves and their family to end their homelessness. All right, so before I do this, let's see, I think do I have to, I'm going to bring up another poll. So I'm trying to figure out, Laura, how do I, oh, here we go. Thank y'all for stop sharing results. Okay, I think I'm going to try to get to another poll. Relaunch polling.
There's a, sorry, Susan, there's a drop down arrow at the top of where it says poll questions, and you can choose from any of the ones there that you.
Awesome. All right, here we go. Here's the next poll. How many households are eligible for housing assistance or, some type of assistance to help them maintain their housing but are not receiving it in Greenville County? We're getting close. There we go. We're over 50% have, okay, we're jumping up to 60. I'll stop it in just a second. When we get to a little, maybe over 70. Okay, we're over 70. I'm going to go ahead and end the polling. Great, we're at 75%. Okay, so y'all said 10,000. It's actually over 30,000. So I don't, and what that means is that, you often will hear about there's a lot that we believe housing is a basic human right, but we don't have the resources from the main source that helps us meet that need. It comes through HUD and is most often in the form of assistance that, you might hear a Section 8 voucher. We actually call it a housing choice voucher, but housing that someone's bridging that gap. I do see that not everyone's seeing the poll. I'm not sure why that is, Sharon, but hopefully you heard the answer. So it is over 30,000. Let me go back to sharing my screen. All right, so I didn't want to miss the opportunity to let you guys know, clearly today we're here to talk about affordable housing. And so we've actually started to use another term, call it exits from homelessness, and we'll help you see why we're talking about it that way. But we also know in order to exit homelessness, you've got to reduce barriers. I mentioned briefly, like if you've been formerly incarcerated or you have an eviction, strengthening our coordinated response. We're actually doing quite well with that. There's incredible collaboration happening right now through our partners that have received federal dollars. And so I want to make sure to remind everyone, please utilize and send people to 211. There's really great collaboration happening through the United Way with those federal partners. So we have millions of dollars we're trying to get out the door. Supporting transit, that's, if you didn't know this, that is a proven fact, the best way to end homelessness. So we are big advocates for helping Greenlink complete their transit development plan, because without that, we really are not going to be able to move the needle significantly on the homelessness end, and especially if you care about traffic, we hope you'll support Greenlink as well in our environment. So, and then finally, impact policy making. That's obviously a reason that many of you are here today. We hope you'll just join us when we push out a call to action. It might be around transit, it might be around housing, it might be around something for people who've been formerly incarcerated. But if we push it out, it's because it's going to impact a policy that's going to move the needle significantly. All right, so really quick, I wanted to just share in our report, you can read a lot more about this. You'll hear these acronyms tossed around, AMI, FMI. What does that mean? I didn't know what it meant for a long time, but you can learn about that. So it's actually, you'll hear those two tossed back and forth. It kind of means, who is our housing affordable to? And that's a really important question. And that number, unfortunately, is rising so fast. So this is a big sticky wicket that we could spend the entire time talking about. But just to let you know, this has come out from the federal government during the time of the pandemic, and our current, if you want to, the proper term is actually family median income. because you'll see in the bold area, that's assuming if you're a household of 4. So when you hear that number, know that we're talking about a household with 4 people in it. That could be a mom with 3 children, or 2 working parents with 2 children, or, you know, some makeup. But that number is now at 74.9. That's our median. And these other smaller numbers that you're seeing, if you're going to be eligible to receive housing assistance, and if a voucher is available to match with your need, your income is going to be at that 50% or below. So that's actually, you know, rising. Like I talked about the 30,000 in the previous slide. Really, that number is rising. It's now at 37.4 according to HUD. If you're in the extremely low category, you would be a mom or probably a single earning household at 26.2. And if you just look in our report to kind of give you an idea, since the Homeless Alliance put that stake in the ground with the white paper, that year our median income was $58,000. So think about how much that's changed in that short 5 years, 58,000 to 74.9. And have our wages changed at the same rate? No, maybe for some, but not for people who need the housing. So I'm going to just share, for us, this is how we're trying to help people understand, like, that number is growing who are falling into the bucket of needing housing assistance. We talked, you know, you took the poll, it was more than 30,000. So this is just to help you think about, based on data, for people who are currently in our emergency shelters, their income and able to move out of that, they need a rent that would be around $200 a month. And I'm just going to run through these. So there's different options that people need to come out of shelter. And one of those is long-term supportive. Cindy, who is on this call, is an expert in this area, and we're really working hard to build more of this long-term supportive type of housing. There's a project called Church Street Place at Poe Mill. Then some people just need a little bit of help to come out of shelter, and for a short period of time, they need that support until they can pick up the full rent on their own, which would move them into this rental range. So what we're really saying is, if we could have more rental options between $375 up to about $650, a lot of the movement in our overall housing system would begin to work. We just don't have those options. And then finally, we need a lot more home ownership options, but currently, in terms of what's available and who's able to build those, right now Habitat is one of the best models, but you know, the supply is not meeting the demand. So we need a lot more money and people who are willing to kind of build in that range where more people have access to home ownership. All of these options require anyone who's living in one of these options to pay 30% of their income towards either their rent or their mortgage, and also cover their utilities and their property taxes and insurance. And so what happens is, when people pay more than that, you know, they're not able to afford the other things that they need. And that's where we get into talking about, like, that's the 30,000 who are paying far more than that 30% for their housing. All right. I'm going to run through this slide real quick, and then I'll launch another poll. But this, especially for Kim, like, she'd be a great person to, like, break it down. You know, people are accessing our emergency rooms and our jail when they don't have housing. And we as taxpayers are incurring those charges. So this is based on real data from the Greenville County Detention Center. We as taxpayers are going to pay about $60 a night to have someone in jail when they might not need that option. They simply need the right kind of home with the right supportive services. You'll see that permanent supportive housing, $26 a day. That far better way to spend our money, and people thrive in that environment with the right kind of support coming around them and the rent that is connected to their income. And then in our emergency room and our private hospital rooms, you know, it's going to be far more. emergency shelter is, actually the lowest option. So what we also try to help people understand is like, not many people are exiting our emergency shelters right now. So we want to get to where that works in our community. And we also have the option, if you have a mental illness and you're not probably going to thrive in the emergency shelter setting, you might need to go right into permanent supportive housing. All right. Let me launch another poll. So here's our Prisma question. They gave us this data. See how y'all do with guessing. How much did Prisma Health spend in hospital charges the first 6 months of last year for people experiencing homelessness? Okay, we're at about 50, or we're jumping to, okay. I'm gonna end the polling and share the results. Good job. All right, so yeah, 2 million, that's where we worked with Prisma, and they do have a way to code people in their system. And so it was about $2 million. That was approximately, I believe, 300 people that that comprised that 2 million. All right. Do y'all want me to answer any of the questions or just wait until the end, Laura?
Whatever is best for you, Susan. If you see stuff that comes up that's in your kind of slide deck that you want to address, so whatever's more convenient for you.
Okay.
And
Hey, Mary, I see you're asking about rental prices, still accurate. I'm not sure I fully understand that question. I know people looking for rentals who are finding prices are much higher and much more daunting. So the rental prices, that range that I was sharing was just to say, this is based on the data. What we see is missing, Mary. Clearly in the downtown Greenville area, the rentals, you're lucky to start with a studio less than $1,000 a month. So I don't know if we're trying to just help make the case of like, if you need to be connected to transportation, we've got to be thinking about building the housing at these ranges near that to solve for homelessness. Does that answer that question, Mary? Okay.
And she
All
also asked a really good question about how can folks that are experiencing homelessness register to vote without a permanent address?
So hold on, just I was about to share the screen. United Ministries does provide mailboxes and places for you to get mail. So if they'll go over and see Nick Bush, he's open Monday through Friday at the Place of Hope there on Pendleton. And so they can get registered with an address through United Ministries. Also, like anyone who's staying in emergency shelter can use that address, and often, that's something that happens once you're staying in emergency shelter. Does that answer that, Eli?
Yes, that was perfect. That was perfect.
Okay.
We have other questions queued up, but whenever you're ready, some really good questions as well.
Okay, I think I've just got a couple more slides. This might help sort of round it out, but we talked about the number of school children, and y'all took the poll. We hope that this slide just helps you feel like you're on fire to do action around, building more housing, answering those calls to action, because these are families that do self-report their homelessness, and that number, as you can see, is growing as the family median income is growing at the same time. So majority of the families are working. They're just in jobs that are being paid somewhere well, minimum wage up to about $12 an hour is where the majority of the family's income is falling. This is to help you see, when I talked about why, if we want to wait, so if you want to wait and you don't want to, do the work now, you're saying, I want children to have to land in emergency shelter or unsheltered to be eligible. So the emergency shelter is here. We had luckily a very small number unsheltered, but the majority are either in a motel, paying far more than they would for a rental likely, or they're doubled up, which is not ideal during the time of this pandemic. Also, majority that self-report are in our elementary schools, so our youngest children. This data is just hot off the press, like we've had it about a week. So wanted to share as we kind of close out and move into questions. In our report on the smaller circles, what we share is the most recent census data puts Greenville County at about 75% white, about 18% Black, and 7% other. And now the reason we broke it out that way is we were trying to match it with our data from emergency shelters. So I do want to just say that up front. That's why it's just these three categories. Eli and I have talked about this. We know that there's a big gap in our homelessness response for Spanish or Latinx people, Spanish speaking. But in our emergency shelters, you can see in the most recent year where we have the data to look at these over 400 beds, who did they serve over a year's time? Disproportionate number of Blacks were served, and our other is, 5%, the white at 47%. This bigger graph is hot off the press, looking just at our students in 2020. And you can see 57% of the students, again, who self-reported were Black. I went ahead and combined, if you try to make it similar, it'd be about 20% in the other, but you can see the white was 23%. And then you have your Hispanic, Asian, Pacific Islander, American Indian make up the other 1%. To add here to the Hispanic. So again, how do we think about this differently? What are some tools in our toolbox? Well, since we have the worst eviction rate in our country, in this state, we can help people think about one eviction. We are going to spend easily around $11,000 in our public resources because of that. And not only is it the money, it's the mental health of that family. That studies have shown that mothers suffer depression for more than 2 years from one eviction. So I know from Chandra and Leola and any other state representatives on here, like this is where we need to be working hard to change this in our state, and we can use those dollars in a better way. All right, so I want to just close out before I give y'all the last couple polls. We'll just run through those. These are our words that we've chosen as values, and you can go onto our website to read more about what we say about these words. We hope that you'll join us in this fight. We believe that every type of justice gets laid bare when you experience homelessness, and we need everyone's help. So I am going to just show y'all real quick. These are also real people in our community who have experienced homelessness, and there's a lot of hope on the other side of that experience. And so we're working to create ways that people who with the lived experience have a voice to advocate, to use their, to have a seat at that table. And so these are many of the faces you see on the screen, their stories are represented in our report. So we would encourage you to please read their stories. We hope it gives you hope as well. All right, so are y'all up for a couple, like we have 3 polls. Everybody up for that?
Yes.
All right. Oh, wait, there's just 2 more polls. All right, so maybe Chandra will like that I included this, but from the city of Greenville, there's a report, as I mentioned, on our website that was done in 2016. How much did we say at that time we could increase our hourly wages, and we would have eliminated the housing shortage that was identified in that report, which said we really lack rentals at this $500 a month or less in the city of Greenville. Okay, we're at about 52%. Okay, it's jumping. There we go. We're at 61. All right, I'm going to end the polling on that one and share the results. Good job, y'all got it right. It's $1.50. So if we could have done that in 2016, we would have eliminated the housing shortage at that time. So there's a lot of ways to think about solving this challenge, and it's not always with building a house. All right, so I'm going to launch this last poll because we're talking about Greenville County today. Here we go. From the county's report, what was the annual recommendation that was made by the consultant to the county to invest per year for 20 years in housing? Okay, we're at like 50. Oh, there we go. All right, we're at 64%. Okay, and we're almost at 70. So let me end the polling and share the results. All right, so majority of you said 2 million, and that number might be sticking in your head because that was what the city put aside in 2016. That was a historic amount that came out of the surplus the city had that year in their general fund. But the number that was actually recommended to Greenville County was 8 million a year for 20 years, just to catch up. So that we haven't achieved, but we have gotten some dollars. And I will say that having John Castile working at GCRA is a big reason that some dollars have been put into the county's, from the county's control into GCRA. And we've also gotten more than just the 2 million on the city side because of advocacy and because of many of you on this call showing up, talking to your elected officials and making sure they understand that it's a priority. All right, so I'm gonna just stop there and we'll go, I'm happy to answer questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. First of all, very informative, and I learned a lot, and I just always learn from you. One of our great Democrats, Roxanne, asked, is there a possibility of creating housing for homeless people who are struggling with addiction and pairing them up with a caseworker to assist them? She cites that other cities might have done this successfully. What's your position on that, if we're in a place to do that as a city of Greenville or as a county?
Okay, state the beginning part again.
If there are homeless people that are struggling with addiction, are we pairing them up with caseworkers and kind of treating them as a separate population versus those that are not struggling with addiction? I think that's what Roxanne's point is trying to get at her question.
So that, I mean, that's a good question. I would say that what we have in Greenville that's pretty unique from other parts of the country is that we have a group that's actually called Coffee Club. We have a very short story about them in our report. And what they do is meet every week. It was in person, it's been virtual during the virus, but they try to say, if they've been connected with someone and they're not able to match them with the right kind of support services, that's the purpose. Like, they discuss all those cases as a collective group of service providers. And that is the best way, because if you talk to them, they would say they couldn't have done it alone. But I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but I do think that the goal in Greenville is to get folks connected with the right type of support. That can take time, and it can also, but I would say the other benefit of the coffee club is if they've built a relationship with this person, then they might be more likely to accept that case manager who can help them address the addiction piece, because, they're bridging and continuing that trust. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I know that we have some great folks on this call that work in this space. One of the questions I have for you is, how are we combating veterans homelessness? And what are some great organizations that are working to really help you in the work that you're doing, but also support the people that are fighting for us?
Yeah, well, we have amazing work happening in that sector, and how I know is a piece of that. And we've met recently and talked about, like, that's very important. And so Warrior Solution is kind of called, is this partner that we call like the quarterback around all issues relating to veterans. And they are working as well with, when that first slide where y'all saw me talk about the continuum of care, that group is solving veterans homelessness across our 13 counties. We might be able to, because of the amazing partnerships in Greenville County, declare an effective 0 in the near future in Greenville County. So I would say stay tuned to Upstate Warrior. The Housing Authority is a very important partner in that work, because while HUD is not sending us like a lot of, they really aren't sending any new just general vouchers, we have been getting more vouchers to assist veterans into our system. And so how that all works together is working around ending veterans homelessness. So we're actually really close, Eli. And what that means is, like, we won't ever see it's not that we won't ever see another veteran who experiences homelessness, but it means that our system has a low enough number that when that person reports or gets connected to services, that they are seeking housing, the system can catch them, come around them with whatever needs they have, and then exit them into a permanent home. That's what effective 0 means.
Wonderful. And I know we have so many good people. I went with a meeting with Hal actually last week to see so many partners. And I think that's what you showcased really well, Susan, in your presentation. It takes a village. You need everyone digging in and leaning in, because one person or one group can't solve it in a vacuum. So no, that's a great question. And thank you for answering that.
I would love to add a little bit as well. So Upstate Warrior Solutions, working with Austin Barrett of the Upstate Continuum of Care, they have actually, we came up with a sort of plan, including me, to solve veterans homelessness, because we want to actually catch veterans before they're homeless. So an example is this recent 70-year-old gentleman who moved back into Greenville from Illinois, Peoria, Illinois. And unfortunately, he had to live out of extended stay on Wade Hampton, because a lot of homelessness actually looks like people paying $2,000 a month, living out of a situation because they can't gather enough money to pay the rent, the deposit, and a lot of these insurance that they have. So I actually talked with Austin, and we are working on a plan, including my location with my transitioning veterans shelter, to actively catch these people before they get to a point where they're fleeced by a lot of these situations, so that they're not digging a hole that they can't dig themselves out of. So that's my contribution to that.
Awesome. Thank you, Hal. And Susan, Laura Haight had a great question. Especially in the pandemic, how are you seeing the eviction and the eviction process influence and affect the homeless and those that are struggling with consistency in homes?
Yeah, thank you, Laura. That's a great question. So we know from our friends at Legal Services they've been watching the private eviction data. And at the end of July, they looked at it compared to 1 year prior. Because if y'all have followed, I'm sure you have, that was where that federal eviction moratorium was ending at the end of July, as well as the federal CARES Act unemployment insurance benefits. It was already up at that time 150% from where it was a year prior. Okay, so that's telling us that it's on the rise. We've been trying to share with policymakers that 30,000, if you think about if housing, you're spending the most of your income to keep the stable roof over your head, then if you don't have the money, to pay your rent, then yes, evictions are going to rise. And so there's different predictors out there, anywhere from, if we think about that 30,000 who, needed housing assistance prior to the pandemic. And now there's eviction predictors saying that anywhere from 43 to up to 55% of those households may be evicted. So we signed on to a letter at the end of this week, and we shared it with our partners who are under the United Way. There's an emergency housing committee that's meeting. We said, we first sent it to the South Carolina Supreme Court Justice Beatty and said, please help us. There are states who are doing things about this. There's about 20 states who are doing something about this. And Justice Beatty said to us, I can't help you. You're going to need to talk to the governor. So we submitted this a slightly altered version of our letter to Justice Beatty that he did respond to the governor at the end of the week. And so that's kind of where we are. I will just share with this group there, Greenville County is the only county in our state that received the federal CARES Act dollars. And if you've seen, there's news articles this week that we are not spending those dollars like county council predicted. So there are people thinking about, what could we legally do with those dollars that are available and do more to keep people stably housed as school is starting, connect people to the ability for their kids to be safely attending school, or, all these things that are very important to Greenville County. So I'd say stay tuned on that. And connect folks to 211, because we can help many people right now. We just need them to begin that process by calling 211.
Well, Susan, I know Cindy has one more question, and then we are going to end it with that question. So Cindy?
I work with the 201 through United Housing Connection, in which we receive the phone calls, and then we go through to help with eviction and utility calls, money that's coming through but they have to be so connected to a COVID-19 reason. There are those that are slipping through the crack. What about those people who can't say, have like evidence from employers, they've had COVID, they have children at home, so therefore they can't work or care. There are still those falling through the crack. Is there another avenue that we can direct people who we've had to turn away in giving these funds? Do you know of where they could go?
That is a great question. The United Way's COVID Relief Fund helped with some of that, prior to these federal dollars, and thank you, Cindy, for your work you're doing there with United Housing Connections. We don't have the perfect answer right now for that. I would say you can refer people to United Ministries for some level of assistance. They've upped the amount that they've typically given. And we are working across the board, I would say, just to hear and know about those gaps. That's one of the biggest roles of the Homeless Alliance, is if we can hear about the gaps, then we will try to convene folks to fill them. But, United Ministries can give someone about $500 and assistance for, maintaining housing or getting back into housing. And that just may not be enough in our market, where a 2-bedroom rental, begins at about $850 a month for median rent.
Thank you for that. And Cindy, thank you for the great question and for the work that you do. I wish I had more time. And Susan, I'll be following up with you because I love talking to you and learn from you. But on behalf of all of us on this call and in our county, thank you for the work that you're doing. What inspires me about you is you look out after the least of us. And I think so oftentimes people forget that, and you are just a special person. And we're so lucky to have you as a champion in our community because it is so vital, the work that you're doing. And I couldn't be more grateful. And let us know what we can do. Challenge us as Democrats, challenge us as parties and part of the citizen, how we can get engaged with you and your organization even more.
Yeah, thank you. Keep follow us on social media. Please show up if we put out a call to action, and help us get the word out that we can think about this differently. We can tackle this. We absolutely can. So stay tuned. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. It was such a great presentation. And as always, I want to make sure we are highlighting, giving a voice to our hardworking elected officials and candidates. So I will start with the wonderful Leola Robinson Simpson, our representative from District 25. Ma'am, I think you might be on mute, Miss Leola.
Okay, can you hear me now? I just want to thank Susan for that presentation because it speaks to so very much that we need to do. And one of the things that we need to do as leaders in this community, we need to come together so we can formulate recommendations for a holistic approach to solving these problems that overlap. We can talk about homelessness, we can talk about evictions, we can talk about unemployment, we can talk about all of these things, but they overlap. When that $91 million came into Greenville County, our leadership was drastically needed to formulate public policies that impact on really remedying the situations that our poor people find themselves in. And in closing, we need to do it because when it comes down to our electorate this November, many of the voters are looking at what is being done for them. And when we talk about who needs to be elected and so forth, if they don't see people out there who are fighting for them and for their needs, because they're the ones who are on the street being evicted, no money in their pockets. So let's come together, if we can, to begin doing some things to impact on the situations that are affecting the poor in Greenville County, because we got the money to do it. We got $91 million in COVID money. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Leola. I always love your fire. And I will kick it to your distinguished colleague, the Honorable Representative Chandra Dillard. I think I might have lost Chandra. I'm sorry. I apologize about that. I thought she was on. I will kick it to our wonderful school board trustee, Ms. Glenda Morrison Fair.
Thank you, everyone, and good morning. I always enjoy coming to this breakfast. I learned so much. It's almost like boots on the ground. I would like to say that I am especially have a heart for veterans, and I would like to get the information from Hal, because I heard him say he was working on a procedure, and I agree with Ms. Leola that we need to overlap efforts. And I also work with Habitat. I know we have a program there just for veterans. We're trying to make sure they have affordable housing. So I appreciate what he said. I'd like to get in contact with him and talk to him more. Thank you for your support, Greenville County. Thank you for everything that Greenville County does, whether you believe it or not. I think this is probably one of the best counties in America. So thank you for what you do, Eli, and thank you, Democratic Party.
Thank you, Ms. Glenda, for showing true leadership. You and the school board have really set the stage for our governor to take a lesson. So I appreciate you leading up and showing them how it's really supposed to be done. So thank you. And we have so many great candidates. I will give each of them a minute to talk. And what we will do is, we heard from our congressional candidate, Kim, earlier. We'll move down a level and start with our state Senate candidates. And it gives me great pleasure to announce the next senator from Senate District 6, the northern half of our county, Hal Wu.
Good morning. And I am truly honored to see all of you all to come here. I had a very, very simple upbringing. I was born in China, and my dad was escaping political persecution under the communist government, and I escaped with him to United States, the land of the American dream, and the land where I was proud to become a biochemist, graduating from UNC Chapel Hill and doing biomedical research. And when I was doing biomedical research, I realized that America is the place where the future is being created by my very own hands. But I was not able to participate because I was not a citizen back in 2009. So I did research, and the Great Recession hurt me as much as it did everybody during that period. And I'd resolved that I was going to get my citizenship one way or another. I joined the Army and became a veteran of the U.S. Army campaign in Afghanistan and Iraq. And after leaving, I was very happy to say that the Army prepared me for service. I took my resources, invested in Greenville, invested in the communities that I'm serving right now, Berea, St. Susie, Travelers Rest. And these are the communities that we are seeing a lot of homelessness, a lot of transportation issues, a lot of healthcare issues, education issues. And I worked with Upstate Warrior Solutions. In fact, I worked with Charlie Hall closely, to create a program that transitions veterans who are transitioning into the upstate away from motels and hotels into properties that I was able to invest in Greenville, South Carolina. And those were very successful programs that, in fact, my roommate, I call him Brother Washington, just recently graduated from the program. And he's a published author doing tours and doing writings about his experience living with me over the past 2 years in Texas right now. And what I have discovered from working on the ground, on boots on the ground in the front lines, is that my personal finances, my personal wealth, I can put it on the line to support as many people, as many veterans, as many of these people as possible. But it's not enough. A couple $100 here and a couple $1,000 there could only go so far. And reaching out to elected officials in my district, wearing many different hats, I just wanted them to care about one thing that I care about, whether it be education, healthcare, public infrastructure. And that was not the case. And that is why I'm running. That is why I'm running to represent the people that I'm already serving. And I cannot do it without the help of my community. I have volunteers right now knocking on doors for me, and I'm proud of the volunteers, but I need more than that. I need resources. I need donations. I need people to go to the website and share my website to as wide an audience as possible. Thank you, because my American dream is already being fulfilled, but so many others are not. And I am working hard to make the American dream possible for everyone in Greenville, in South Carolina.
Thank you, Hal. I really, really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that so much. I know I want to really highlight, we had a great young man who is also a veteran that was on the call earlier and had to leave. And his name is Javaris Howard. He is running for State House District 19, also in kind of the northern half of our community. Make sure you check him out. A great dad, a great veteran, a great businessman, and is the new face of the Greenville Democratic Party. Young, with energy, diverse background, and great new ideas that are going to move the country forward. So let's send two veterans to our General Assembly with Hal and Javaris. Thank you again, Hal. One last candidate, and this is a great point of privilege for me. We are about to do something really big with Samantha Wallace. Samantha is taking on not only the patriarchy of Greenville County Council, as y'all know, she is taking it right to the heart of the Republican district. She is going for the Bob Jones seat. And when I say going for it, Sam is putting her heart, her soul, and her wisdom into this. And if any of you have seen what her campaign is doing, you know it is authentic Sam, because it's done with style and done with tenacity. So my friend and our next amazing county councilwoman from District 22, Samantha Wallace.
Thank you, Eli. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. What an incredible morning. I have to say, I think wherever Melissa Watson Ward shows up, I'm going to try to show up right behind her. And a little anecdote, Susan McLarty and I were co-room moms about 16 years ago. And she is one of the most inspiring people, I think, in our community. The work she's doing is so vital. And it would be my great privilege to roll up my sleeves with her and do some real good here in our county in the coming years. So it's probably perfect that Susan introduced the topic of homelessness, because when I think about why I'm running, I've lived here for a little over 20 years, and I have seen firsthand the growth of our county. And we are headed towards a growth rate of approximately 50% between now and 2040. So if we're feeling this pressure, this intense reality around affordable housing now and issues with public transportation now, we have to address what's coming. It's this looming, inevitable tide of growth. And so we have to lay the groundwork now for what kind of county we want to be. It's about smart growth, absolutely. It's about balancing what has long been sort of a lopsided influence of developers in our community, kind of right-sizing that with a voice for neighborhoods and historically underrepresented communities, fighting for real balance with infrastructure and workforce development along the way, so these systems can sustain and improve the quality of life here for all. As I like to say, floating all boats is really what smart growth is about. We have seen a pattern of lack of transparency in county government, and we cannot be the inclusive and just and equitable place that I believe every single one of us on the call wants to see us become until our county government really does fling open the doors, bring citizens into the process. I think it was mentioned, numerous times, this 91 million that came flowing our way. And it was, I would say, shameful, the lack of involvement of our community in developing a viable plan for it. Thus, you see that out of $91 million, I believe at last count, we had distributed just under 2 million of that. So how is it serving our community? I think a part of the problem with it being distributed is it wasn't a fully baked plan to begin with. But I digress. I think solving some of the issues of transparency will fundamentally avoid issues like this going forward. It's messy, it's hard to be transparent. It takes people who will roll up their sleeves and have a work ethic about them. You cannot be complacent. At the same time, you uphold transparent government. And lastly, the thing I would love to see more of is what I call intergovernmental solutions. So the issues of homelessness, transportation, economic justice are complex. It's not one city that can solve this or one jurisdiction that can solve this. We need elected leaders who will get out of their own box proactively and engage with their fellow elected leaders and representatives and amazing community partners at the federal, state, municipal, and certainly county level, and find creative, innovative ways to collaborate and get things done fundamentally. So those are the three main reasons I'm running, is to support smart growth, ensure we build a more inclusive community, and find ways to be more innovative in the way we work across governmental jurisdictions. So I'm a businesswoman by trade. I come with kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. I do understand the business world. So I do bring that to the table with me, and I am a community champion, and I celebrate this place we're in, and I want to see it get better and better. And I know we can, like Susan, like we can solve this, we can get better. So I really look forward to working with you all. I see this as a journey. I mean, yes, I need to get in office. It will be a big deal when I get there, and I would love your help. We have a great team. We have a lot of good energy. You can visit our website at votesamanthawallace.com. Lots of safe volunteering opportunities, and we have a place for you for sure. And I look forward to building relationships now to do great work ahead. So thanks for the opportunity, Eli.
Thank you, Sam, so much. I want to thank Sam. I know Javaris was on earlier, and Hal for stepping up and running and being our future elected officials. I want to thank Ms. Glenda, Ms. Leola, Ms. Chandra for being persistent champions for all of us. I want to thank our team. I want to thank our amazing speakers. Sam, I agree with you. Melissa Watson Ward, I mean, how can you not just want to be where she's at? Susan McLarty is a visionary, and make sure we keep her in our minds and in our sight, because she's doing the work that we all have values for. Stay safe, y'all. I know we ran a little bit over. Thank you for your patience. Make sure we're wearing our mask. Yes, let's make sure we're getting Lindsey Graham out. I love that, Miss Kate. Thank you for the flip-flop. And as always, let our values radiate from us. The way we change things is by being the best version of ourselves and letting it move and spread throughout this wonderful community that we call Greenville. Love you all, much love. And let's all laugh this week as we see the Republican National Convention and the show that it's about to be. Best to you all. And I'm sorry, before I leave, I cannot be in this position without our amazing former chair, Kate Franch, who works tirelessly, is still working tirelessly. So whatever I do, whatever success I have, it is all owed to Kate. So thank you, Kate, for always stepping up and always being by my side. Bye, guys.